in English, okay? So we continue with the comparative adjectives, okay? And we are going to remember what's an adjective. An adjective is uh, a description of a person, animal, or thing. For example, I am tall, or I am big, I am fat, okay? I am late, okay? Or you can say about a thing, that computer is cheap, that computer is small, my cell phone is nice. What? About a person, or about an animal, or about um, a thing, you can describe it. And if you describe it, you are using adjectives, okay? So that's great. That's really well. Now, we're going to be talking about the comparatives. Comparatives happen when you compare one thing and one thing. For example, I am taller than my wife, okay? My wife is more intelligent than me. My wife is really intelligent, and I am not that intelligent. So she is more intelligent than me, okay? Um, what can I say? I am better at English than at Spanish, okay? Or than Spanish, I'm sorry. I am better at English than Spanish. I am better at English than math. I hate math. So I am better at English, okay? That's a comparative. I am comparing one and one. In the first example, I compare my wife and I compare me, one and one. And I compare math and English. So I compare one and one. So what happens? Number one, usually you have one syllable adjectives. And when you have one syllable adjectives, you use verbs, for example, small, cheap, nice, late, big, and fat. Okay, so if you are at home and you have the opportunity to repeat, do it. Repeat at home, okay? Small, cheap, nice, late, big, fat. Good. So there are some important situations. Look, number one, add er to most adjectives. Okay, so you have small, smaller, cheap, cheaper. Add r to adjectives ending in e. Okay, so when you have e, for example, nice, you don't have to add er like nicer. No, it's not correct. You have to say nicer. Or late, later. You only add the letter r. Okay, that's the only thing you have to do. Add the letter r. And finally, you have to double the final consonant on adjectives ending consonant vowel consonant. For example, big. Look, big, and you go with double consonant, bigger. And you also have fat, and you go double consonant, fatter. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to share, I hope, I'm going to share the screen again. Okay, and I'm going to go slowly in here. Okay, so a comparative. You have tall. Okay, what's the form to say más alto? Taller, taller. Okay, you also have small, and you go smaller. Okay, you have a, let me remember, cheap, and you go cheaper. Okay, and these are the adjectives that we can add er. Okay, sometimes when you have one adjective that already has e, for example, large, you don't have to go large this is not correct. Okay, you only add er. Okay, so I'm just going to do this. Larger, larger. Look, I only add er. There is another example in there, right? We were talking about nice and late, for example. So I'm going to write nice. And when you say más bonito, you say nicer, nicer. Okay? And this is the form that you have. You also have late, okay? And you go late and only add ER. Sorry, I am improvising. My keyboard was set up in a different form and I don't know what happens in here. So a large, larger, nice, nicer, late, later. This is the second situations, or the second situation. There is a third situation over here. Let me see. Yeah, there's a like a second situation over here. If you have a verb, sorry, an adjective, we're talking about adjectives. If you have an adjective that goes consonant, vowel, consonant, you have to double the final consonant, okay? Double the final consonant and then add ER. And then you say más grande, bigger, bigger, okay? You also had, for example, thin, thin, and the change is thin. The final consonant is N. You double it and add ER. Okay. You also have fat. When you make the change, you double and add ER. Okay. Fat, fatter. That's what we have. So don't forget these changes because sometimes when we write, we usually forget this. Actually, remember that you cannot say, I am more big. This is not correct. I am more big or you are more big than me. That's not correct. Okay, you have to say bigger, thinner, fatter. You don't have to say more big, more thin, more fat. Usually, students, when they are learning English, they say, oh, English is more easy with Mr. Ki-bher. Now, English is more easy. It's not correct. English is more easy is not correct. So we are going to check what happens to make these changes. Welcome to all the participants. I am so happy to have you here. So that's the second part of the table. When we have easy, look at easy. Yeah, you don't have to say more easy, you have to say easier. How does it happen? When adjectives have one or two syllables but they end in y, okay, it says in here add IER to two syllable adjectives ending in y. Okay, so you have friendly, look at the change, friendly, and the changes, the substitution of y for I and add ER. And easy, easier. Okay, so I'm going to try to share again. Going to try to share the screen in here. And I want to remind you, easy, fácil, más fácil. So how do you say más fácil? Is, and you make a substitution, you add the letter I, okay, and then you add ER, easier. You also have heavy. You know what heavy is? Pesado, pesado. If you want to say más pesado, you make a change, you substitute Y, add I, okay, you add I, and then you add ER. Heavy, heavier, pesado, más pesado, okay? And this is the second situation. Don't forget, it can be one or two syllables. Dry, for example, drier, okay? And there is one that you are studying, friendly, and you go friendlier, okay? So that's very good. That's really good to be able to understand this part. Actually, I usually tell my students, study the comparatives, study the comparatives, because comparatives are a very good way to to be fluent in English. If you want to be fluent in English, you study adjectives and practice comparatives. Oh, look, that house is bigger than that house. What? I am taller than my mother. My mother is taller than my father. Or my father is bigger than my big brother. And you can make a lot of comparatives and you can practice a lot. Okay. So this is one syllable, tall, two syllables, easy, friendly, two syllables, right? But there are other adjectives with two syllables. I will give you a list. For example, expensive, expensive, three syllables. Expensive is what you listen, right? Modern, modern, two syllables. In this case, you don't have to say more sorry, moderner. You don't have to add er. You have to use the word more. Okay. So when you say expensive, caro, to say más caro, you say more expensive. And if you say moderno, modern, you go more modern. When you have two syllables, when you have two syllables, that's what you need to understand. And well, what other verbs can we use for this example and that you are studying? Old fashioned. Okay, when you go and make a change, you say more old fashioned. Okay, modern, more modern. Expensive, more expensive. Okay, and these are the changes that you need to remember. Somebody turned on the sorry, somebody turned on the microphone, so I would like you to put it in silence. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, and these are the comparative adjectives. There is only one more exception, and you need to understand this part. So I'm going to show you some adjectives over here. The final point, some adjectives are irregular. So you don't say good, gooder, or bad, badder. No, you usually say good to say bueno, and better to say mejor. Okay, and you say bad, malo, and worse to say peor. Okay, so those are the two adjectives at the moment that you need to understand. So these are the comparative and all the forms that they have. I want to make a little review on the vocabulary as well. So give me a moment.